Mr. Chair, may tanong po ako no, kay Dr. Raquel Fortun related po doon sa mga several drug-related and activist-related AJK. So, Mr. Chair, Dr. Raquel Fortun, have you conducted autopsies to several drug-related and activist-related?
Drug-related, war on drugs?
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. I had the
Tsaka-
opportunity to actually perform autopsies on around 20 cases.
Drug-related,
Drug-related, and then
activist-related.
activist-related, yes, several.
Okay. What is the standard or regular procedure to be followed in conducting an autopsy?
In an ideal situation, it is defined which deaths have to undergo what we call a forensic autopsy. And definitely in the cases we're talking about, they're violent deaths. They have to be investigated. And that means the body at the scene, as it is discovered, has to be also preserved in terms of physical evidence. At the scene, where the body is located, how it is positioned, so much detail has to be noted. And then the body has to be carefully removed from the scene for a more detailed examination. And this is where the autopsy comes in. And when we do an autopsy, a forensic one, there is a very detailed external examination. There's a lot of documentation. We expect our findings to be questioned. There must be no issue regarding who is this person, so we address identity. Also, cause and manner of death, but this is better assessed when we next do internal examination. It really depends on the case. If you have a shooting victim, I would typically ask for x-rays, if only to make sure that there are bullets there or not.
Okay.
So it depends on the case.
So pag sinabi po nating forensic autopsy no, very detailed autopsy. Tama po ba?
Yes, ma'am.
In terms of manner of death and cause of death, etc.
The word forensic there means you have legal questions to address.
Okay.
And typically, you have to answer that there's no question, this is the person you are, the person is properly identified.
Okay.
What killed him, how did he die?
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Fortun. So did you conduct an autopsy on Ana Maris Chay Evangelista and her husband, and also her husband Ariel Evangelista and Manny Asuncion? Nag-autopsy po ba kayo?
Yes, ma'am. I did.
So these are victims of activist-related AJK known as Bloody Sunday Massacre. So for the records, what are your findings po dito sa mga autopsy nitong mag-asawa at saka kay Manny Asuncion?
Well, for the record, these individuals were part of what was called in media as the Bloody Sunday, because on this particular day there were 9 individuals killed, and I was able to actually examine all 9.
Mhm.
They were brought to me in the UP College of Medicine morgue, and just to summarize, the cases were examined from March 9 to March 13.
Ito lang po, Dr. Fortun, sa mag-asawang evangelista po at saka kay Manny Asuncion. Ano po yung findings ninyo?
I have already released the report, and if the committee or the Quadcom is interested or does not have a copy yet, I can provide. Because the details are here, I will have to, like for instance, starting with Ana Marie Evangelista, in the autopsy report I issued, she sustained several gunshot wounds to the trunk, particularly in the chest area, 2, one in the abdomen, and there were internal injuries. This is the most severe. She also sustained through and through or perforating gunshot wounds of the upper extremity in the right hand and the left forearm. And also, she had what I called projectile injuries, or small fragments. Foreign bodies entered the lower extremities as well, and some other parts of the body. Now, this is best correlated with the scene. What are these fragments? Are they from concrete, bullets? I wouldn't know because I had no access to scene findings, just the body.
So dun po ba sa autopsy, Dr. Fortun, nakikita natin yung, siyempre alam natin, yung mga sinasabi niyo po na mga details, like for example, kay Cha at saka kay doon sa asawa niya po ay gunshot wounds. Ito, di ba? Mga gunshot wounds po yung mga nakita natin. So nade-determine diyan ano, kung ano yung trajectory noong baril na or yung bala na tumama doon sa isang body. So malalaman natin kung malapit, binaril, or malayong binaril. Tama po ba?
When we say trajectory, this is the direction of the bullet as it entered the body.
Opo.
And this is actually descriptive.
Okay.
You're referring to a body standing upright, facing forward, palms forward. So it does not actually tell you how the individual was shot. Just by looking at the body, you have to address everything, like the scene findings, bullets, casings, blood spatter, totality of evidence. When you're asking about how far or how near the shot was fired, this is what we refer to as the muzzle to skin distance. And this is best assessed by looking at the entrance wound, because sometimes there are marks there, like smudging or soot, stippling, and so on. But again, in these cases, I had a lot of limitations. Like for instance, they were all embalmed. And the embalmer would introduce changes, like the injuries, like the entrance wound would be sutured. And that would damage the features there. Another limitation is, these cases, I did not have access to all their clothes. Clothing should be part of the autopsy. And only some of them had their clothes on them. I think the spouses, Evangelista, Ana, and Mr. Evangelista had their clothes, but the others I did not. So what I'm saying is you have to make use of a lot of information. But if the bodies are not properly documented, preserved, and so on, that poses a lot of limitations.
Okay, yung so ano po yung pinaka findings niyo po doon sa mag-asawa? So yung pagbaril po ay too close, yung pagbaril doon sa nakandak ninyong autopsy?
Again, the details would be in the actual autopsy reports, but I don't think in any of the cases I was able to commit to range of fire or how far or how near the shots were fired at them. The most I could say were how many shots were fired, where, what parts of the body were injured, what could have been fatal.
So you have that in your report? Nandiyan po yung sa report ninyo?
Yes, ma'am. The details
So,
are in the reports.
Mr. Chair, may we ask Dr. Fortun to submit the autopsy report po? Can you submit?
Yes, ma'am, I can. I have PDF copies with me, electronic files, but if you want the actual signed copies, they're in my office.
Based po doon sa trajectory or yung direction, sabi niyo po nung bullet. Sa dami po ba ng mga wounds, masasabi ba natin na intentional yung pagbaril o hindi?
Actually, all of the individuals I examined, all 9 of them sustained multiple gunshot wounds, particularly in the chest, in the trunk.
O intentional yung pagpatay?
If you would consider the multiplicity, the number of shots, then that implies intent.
Okay.
And then I also identified injuries in the upper extremities, which in forensic pathology we would call defense type injuries, because that means the individual instinctively tried to defend
cover.
himself or herself.
Okay. Pag intentional po yung pagbarel, pagpatay, so that means, ito po ba ay to the head, to the heart, or some part po ng body?
I understand in my summary all the 9 individuals sustained gunshot wounds to the chest and abdomen, the trunk, where
So,
internal organ are.
Okay. Sa autopsy po ng PNP, no, sa mag-asawang Evangelista, nakasaad po yung cause of death. So, yung cause of death po, sabing ganon, and I quote, gunshot wounds to the body. At walang nakasaad ng paano siya pinatay or manner of death. So, tama po ba ito or sufficient na ito na explanation sa pagkamatay ng mag-asawa?
In the death certificates issued by the medical legal officer in Batangas, the statement is general. Like for instance, for Ariel Evangelista, it's perforating the heart and lungs, gunshot wounds to the body, firearm discharge. Actually, the statement is wrong. But anyway, this implies that he was shot in the body, which injured the heart and lungs. And, you know, if you do an autopsy, you can better explain what injuries were sustained. Like, same case, Mr. Evangelista, in my findings, he sustained, it confirms, yes, that he was shot in the heart, but also the aorta, the lungs, the diaphragm, the liver, there were massive hemorrhages. And I identified also the fractures. I was able to recover the bullet in the chest. As for manner, in the Philippines, this is often blank in the death certificate because we do not have a proper death investigation system. Doctors would not commit, even the police, as to manner, even if the individual was really shot. In our classification, we would call this homicide, and there is no commitment on the word homicide, even on the death certificate.
So, ang ibig po sabihin nito ay parang insufficient yung ginawang pag-iimbestiga in terms of, dun syempre para kung nag-iimbestiga tayo na may namatay, so aalamin natin yung manner of death at saka yung cause of death. So, ang ginagawa lang usually ng mga pulis ay simple lang na sabihin na namatay sa gunshot wounds. So, ganun lang. Tapos manner of death, is it homicide, murder, or suicide, whatever. Yun, solo yun lang po yung... So, paano natin po ma-determine kung talagang intentional yung pagpatay or hindi?
Generally speaking, I have been in the practice of forensic pathology for 30 years. And my observation is, that's it. We do not have a proper death investigation system. Killings are not properly and adequately and scientifically investigated. If there is some attempt to investigate, it's very, very superficial. Autopsies are not detailed. There is no correlation among the findings, like you do not put together findings on the body, the scene, the statements, physical evidence, and so on. So this is very, very much lacking in the Philippines. Even the death certificate is very deficient.
Okay. So, makikita natin dito, Mr. Chair, no, yung kung paano nag-iimbestiga, no? Kung paano nag-iimbestiga ang authority natin pagdating sa mga patayan. Parang hindi mo talaga makikita doon, ano, kung paano. no, kung intentional or whatever. Like for example po, Mr. Chair, yung kay Ariel and Chai, sinasabi lang doon na mode of death ay ano lang, ano, yung homicide. Okay. So ang findings nyo na ito, sumusunod sa findings niyo Dr. Fortun, sumusunod ba sa regular or standard procedure para sa autopsy? So definitely ang sagot nyo ay hindi, no, dun sa ginawa ng PNP. Tingin niyo po ba yung kinandak na mga autopsy dito sa tinutukoy natin ng mga individuals ay sumunod po ito doon sa standard procedure ng autopsy?
Again, generally speaking, investigations in the Philippines, including autopsies, are not up to par with international standards. The cases I get, I try to come up with more or less, the procedure similar to what should be expected. But as I said, I have a lot of limitations. I have no access to the body at the scene. By the time the body comes to me, it's already embalmed. Many times, it's already previously, quote-unquote, autopsied or examined. And I have very limited information regarding the scene and other findings. So it's very difficult here in the Philippines.
So, doon po ba sa kinokondak na autopsy, no? Ang ninyo, makikita po ba dito yung based po sa autopsy, consistent ba yung woods sa narrative na nanlaban? Kasi lagi na lang, kahit na po sa drug-related or activist-related, lagi na lang sinasabing nanlaban. So, ang laging depensa po ng pulis ay nanlaban. Nakikita po ba ito doon sa autopsy?
In the last hearing, that was asked of me several times, and I have tried to explain that just because someone fought back, this is not an excuse for the police to shoot them dead. And in some cases, I cited that there were marks of restraint, like they were handcuffed. So how could they have fired back or fought back? I have previously pointed out that these individuals were shot in the head, in the chest, in the abdomen where vital organs are, and they were shot multiple times. So this is not really an attempt to merely disable them or make them as a defense mechanism of the police. They were meant to kill. And also I have encountered several cases of, as I mentioned earlier, defense-type injuries, which are classically in the arms.
Okay.
Umani naman ito ng iba't ibang reaksyon mula sa ating mga netizens. Ayon kay Kelly Prada, ACT-Teacher Party List palayang si Castro, dapat ang focus niya ay concern ng grievances ng mga teachers, hindi kung ano-ano. Pahayag naman ni Lola Pedring, tingnan mo itong si Castro, pang-aktivista talaga yung focus niya. Dapat hindi na ito sinagot ni Fortun. At ito naman ang saloobin mula sa ating kababayan na si Michelle Concepcion, nahihirapan intindihin ni Castro si Dr. Fortun, kitang-kita sa mukha ni Castro. Mga kababayan, feel free to comment below para maglabas ng saloobin sa balitang ito.